Hey guys, I don't know how well I am. I'm kind of nursing a couple of very disappointed kids here at home who were
Oh,
bawling their
mate,
eyes out.
mate.
Yeah,
How could you pass that on to them as well, Jory, and lead them
they
through to
they
decades of
told me
misery,
about it.
man?
They were like, "Dad, how
Jory,
can you support
yeah.
this fucking team? They're so
Jory,
shit."
tell him I've been there with Spurs and Chelsea. We've played Chelsea. I remember I was crying my eyes out when I was younger. I think we were at the bridge. So we've all
Yeah,
been there.
Oh,
Does it get any better? Tell him no.
no.
tell them the truth from a young age.
Just take a break from football like I
Yeah.
did for many years. That's the only way
Yeah,
to get
I
out
think
of
we
it.
could all do with that right now, Jory.
Jory, talk to us though. 2-0 up.
Mm-hmm.
How have we ended up in a situation like this today where we've lost 4-3?
I mean, I have to say, in general, I was happy with the application that the squad showed tonight. There were players with issues for sure. Basuma was early really clear for me. I sent a message in your chat saying I wanted Gray in as soon as possible. Not that I think Gray is going to do any miracles, but I saw the train wreck coming with Basuma, and it happened, of course. Also, I mean, to answer your question, how does it happen? It happens because our squad is depleted and exhausted. They had the fight. They had the right attitude tonight. Some players were struggling. Son, I have to say, like for me, Son, if your base is gonna drop this low, you really need to rethink your role. And we put a lot of faith in you, and that baseline is way too low for you, Sonny. Like you, I mean, we know that when he's struggling, his touch is difficult. But when you're like every other pass, you're doing a bad pass, then I don't know, Sonny. Are you one of the players that are not focusing fully on the football? I don't buy that it's AIDS and all of that. The Sonny, you need to be a lot better than you showed tonight. But I would say, yeah, I mean, it happens because the squad is completely, it's a mess. It's dead. And why is it dead? Because we're playing Ange Postecoglou football with only 11 players that are competitive in that, and I've been thinking a lot about this. The very least you need to be able to play this kind of football in the Premier League is 20 players at starting level competence, and we have teenagers instead, and so Anne should know that, and Anne should also know that he is about to destroy his squad if he continues this way. The only problem is that Anne doesn't really have an option because he doesn't know any other like holistic system that he can go into. He can tweak, and I've been happy with many of his tweaks. But in general, it's going to be this high press, high line football, and that's going to kill the squad. It killed much bigger squads than ours. It killed Liverpool not that long ago, and you're going to have freaking 8, 10 injuries every season. It's not a surprise. It's in the numbers. If you can't rotate a full first team, then you're going to have this amount of injuries. So that's how it happens, and that's why it's not going to be much of a bounce. We might see a bounce in next game, but in general, this is a downward trend that's coming up now. Because unless we go and buy like 5 outfield players in January, which we're not going to do,
No.
then this trend will continue. And like I said, there shouldn't be any news to Ange or really anybody who has anything to do with the football at this point. But I would like to. Here's Isak. He's feeling a little bit better now. So
Oh, hi,
Hello.
Isaac. Things will get better, little fella. Don't you worry. They will get better. Eventually.
Yeah. No, but I wanted also to put a couple of questions to you guys, because we of course went from sack pots, or we Levy sack pots, and then we got Mourinho in, and I ask you guys, did we complete and follow through what a Mourinho tenure should be? Did we kind of fulfill that tenure from a club point of view? I would like, what I mean there is, like, did we basically recruit what you're supposed to recruit to give Mourinho what Mourinho needs to do Mourinho things?
I would say it was miraculous what Mourinho managed to do with the players that he had at his disposal, and I would say it was criminal for Levy to sack him before a cup final. Criminal.
I would probably say I think Conte ended up taking him, between him and Nuno, ended up taking the rest of what we call a Mourinho team. But it wasn't. But the problem is Conte and Mourinho, where they're quite similar, their player profiles are quite different. And I think that was what the issue was. Even though they were all they are defensive minded. One's a back three, one's a back four, and it was never going to work. And they both relied on Eric Dyer, which that's for them. That's criminal, yeah. But
Marlon, my question is more: did we, the club, did they, go follow through with the recruitment of Mourinho? Did we follow it up with actions that's going to support what Mourinho is supposed to do? And my answer, of course, would be no. We didn't do that, and I agree.
It would always be Joe Rodon, wasn't it? That would be where the biggest issue was with Mourinho, where he wanted a central defender in at the back, and they gave him Joe Rodon, and he was like, "I'm gonna have to take that."
Conte
what you're both alluding, and I agree completely with Samir here, is like, I think Mourinho did miracles as well with what he had, So, and I think you're both alluding. But I'm gonna progress this line of questioning. Did we follow through with the Conte appointment? Did we, recruit in a time and in a manner that makes sense when you bring in Conte? And I would say right away, no, nowhere close to it.
I would say we've got a Conte team now.
I would say this team would be very dangerous in Conte's hand. I agree with that. But I would say there's still, Conte would have wanted much more seniority in there as well.
The thing with Conte is the only thing I'd say with Conte, and I kind of half don't blame the club for everything with Conte, is because Conte had a lot of issues that season personally, right? Where he lost two of his best friends that season. He wasn't in the right headspace. Then Bentancur getting injured. I don't think everyone realizes Bentancur getting injured against Leicester in February completely derailed everything, because Bentancur was completely the best player in the team and getting us through some games. And then he had to take the month off. He had his surgery. I just don't think his heart was in it, and I think that was a major issue. That's why the outburst came against Southampton. And it was kind of to say, I can't do this anymore. And I kind of think the club would have stuck with him to the end of the season if they could have.
I kind of agree with that. I would say I don't really blame the club, because the club knew that they never intended to follow through with it anyway.
He had an 18-month contract, didn't he?
They never intended to buy any more of, or get in any more of like... now I lose his name. What was our winger? Perisic. We never intended to be in the market for those types of players. We never intended to go full on to get the fullback at Inter and so on. What we intended to do is get a guy in that's good enough to get us into Champions League, and settle the fan uproar that was at that moment, and that's what they succeeded in once again.
Job done for
them.
Done.
That was the mission for the board, basically, and now it's Ange Postecoglou, and I ask you guys once again, are we following through with what you should do when you appoint Ange Postecoglou? And I would say
definitely
no,
not.
because like Conte and Mourinho, they need a few guys, but they're going to be pretty expensive. Ange doesn't need expensive guys, but he needs a lot of guys.
Yes.
And we've done neither, so we don't follow through with any of our managers' profiles of what they need to be able to do their job.
So this is my question to you. This was my question to Amir earlier, right? Ange is obviously not the right man for this board. Do we? It's not, but he's probably more suited to the fan base, right? If we think about it. But do we need to go get a manager that's more suited to the board than it is anything else? Because otherwise, we're always going to be in this up and down results business, because the board are never going to be committed to bringing in anything for any manager.
No,
because
I have to ask you then, Marlon, what's the point of that? Because the board is not committed to taking any risk beyond they're not even committed to risking anything there. They just want to do what they think.
And that's why I was saying earlier that maybe Poch was the perfect person for them at the time, because he could get the best out of the minimal amount of players that he was required, and be able to get the best results and hit the ceiling, right? But when
Sorry, Marlon.
But when Poch then suddenly went, hold on, I want more than this. He outgrew the club. Well, not the club, but the board. And the board were like, no. And going back to your point, they didn't want to then back the manager to take them to that next step. So maybe that's what our board kind of need. They just need to bring in these Poch managers who suit their profile instead of suiting the fans, all us, because that's the only way it's going to be successful. The problem is they've got to go out and go find that person out there, because it's not going to be a top.
That's what they've been doing, Marlon. Yeah. They've been getting in managers that can make a big PR circus, and even Mans is that.
But they've been getting managers to suit the fans. They haven't been getting managers to suit them. That's been the difference.
But that's their main priority.
Yeah, they want to just appease us. Do you know what I mean? They want you to bring in a win now manager and appease you for a year. But
so let's take Poch. When he was signed, right? None of us really knew, and none of us knew how to take it. It was just a manager appointment at the time, because we just lost. It was between the AVB and Sherwood moment, and Sherwood we were all like, we don't care who it is at the moment. But now you look at Mourinho was signed for the fans. They didn't want to fully commit to that. Conte was then signed for the fans. They tried to go with Nuno because they were trying to back Paratici, right? But as soon as it went, it was literally like the fall now. Yeah. They went, let's go and get Conte, who the fans want.
And look at Nuno now, by the way, even though I'm not agitated, I'm not going to say that I wanted that or anything.
But look
he's
at
doing
him
a wonderful job.
But then you look at Ange, and same things with Ange. It was what the fans wanted. All the fans wanted was, we've had two defensive managers who all the fans asked for was an attacking manager. They didn't ask for someone who could defend, but that's what the fans got.
But then Marlon, and this is why I'm like, for me, it's actually important to be Ange in this moment, because I want to like I can set. I don't want a cup. I don't want a league. For me, success in this period of history that we're in right now, success would be to complete the project that we set out on, whatever. And like with Ange, it means complete a squad. For me, I would say, ideally, if you're going to go all in, you would have basically 3 times a full starting setup to be able. Then you can sustain that on this level for sure. Is it going to yield anything? Well, that's what I would love to know. I would love to see it. If it can. Because I can't say that I know it if we now fire him.
And JORRI, what you're saying is exactly the point that I think frustrates most Tottenham fans that are still Ange in. You're saying, I can see the sparks of what this team would be capable to do if they had the firepower required, because we beat City, we beat United, we beat Villa. You can see that there's the elements there to go and do something. But then you look at the bench and you see school kids, You see players that are not of the caliber to come in and jump into that first 11.
Exactly.
So,
We have at the most we have been able to sustain this level of play a quarter of a season.
yeah,
This is
yeah,
going. This is a downward trend. It's going to
yep.
go down to 2 games at one. We're getting into 1-2 games where we're able to play like this, and so for me the count is 20 plus starting quality players that you
Yeah.
need in your squad.
No, agree.
And so for me to say that Ansball is not viable, which is my suspicion in general, just because I think philosophically, nothing to do with Ants. I just think philosophically, if you're, and I talked to Sim about this, and he looked it up, and it's like the games where we've had the least possession, we've won 4 or 5. The
Yeah.
games where we've had the most possession, we've lost 4 or 5. So, the possession thing is only possible in the Premier League if you're at the very top of ball playing ability with every player. And, you need to be world class. You need to be Liverpool or City,
Yeah.
and Liverpool on a good year, not even Liverpool on every year,
Yeah.
and that's not what we're ever going to be,
No,
guys.
we're still so far,
Yeah.
so
So
far away from that.
and I said this to Sim at the time in the call-in. For me, our most important trait of our DNA or whatever is being able to play some of the best transitional football in the world, and being quick on the break and so on. And this is just as much Tottenham DNA for me. So that would be what I would be hoping for. I'm not talking about counter attacking, being very defensive, and that could be one version, yeah. But I'm talking about just being a little bit more clever about it, a mid block, whatever, and just utilizing those transitional moments, and of course utilizing set pieces and all of that to a much higher degree. But I don't even care what I want anymore. I just want whatever we pick. Can we now complete that process? Can we now let it have a real chance at showing what it's capable of? And I do think that if we were doing that, then this moment that we're in now is maybe the deep dark valley, and there would be a lot of joy once we get out of that. But
I hope so.
with this ownership, it's not. We're not going to get in the 10 other top outfield players, and he's not going to get the time. I think Levy is lining up now. I don't think he has. I mean, if it unless he completely turns it around, I think he's probably going to be out before the end of the year, because
Yeah.
Levy still thinks he can get somebody in and get a European spot.
I,
Yeah,
I'm with you, Jory. I think a bad result up in Scotland, and I think it's
yeah.
it's
It's
very close,
I've-
very close to pulling the trigger.
No, I think Southampton will be the trigger. Because
Yeah,
that's a bad
but-
result. You can't. Everyone's battering Southampton.
but also, guys, I have to say also, I mean, knowing this, like Ange also knows what club he's going into, and what league he's going into. So I'm not taking any blame of him. He should know that it's pretty much an impossibility with this kind of setup, and also with the players. There are players that also bear a lot of responsibility, I think. And actually, I was watching back the famous Conte press conference, and I recommend everybody do it. I watched the whole thing back, and really his central theme. I mean, he talked about the owners and stuff like that, but the picture that he built was that there isn't an environment that demands anymore. And
Success,
that's the
yeah.
fans, that's the media, that's the club, that's the city, that's everything. And he has never, and he says, I've never experienced this situation. When he walks into Napoli, the whole city is crazy and demanding that it'll get better if it's not at the top, and it completely is non-stop, This is the club that told Paratici and his assistant to tone it down when they were watching the games, to not be so animated and not be so vocal
Yeah.
when they were watching the games. That really says it all about the
That
culture.
says something. That says something. And I think if you want to dig even deeper, Jory, I think the Hugo Lloris story and the engravings on the
Yeah,
medals
I mean
also.
that was
that
a piece
also-
of evidence to that.
That's
Yeah,
more evidence. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Exactly.
I think so. And so once again, I just want to, before I go, guys, I just want to emphasize this, that there's two things. If you want to see, if like if we want to lower our demand for success just so we can experience success, the lowest bar should be that we complete the project that we've hired a manager to do. Whether that project yields any silverware, that'll just have to be history will show that. But the other thing also, guys, in terms of getting rid of the owners, for those of us who dream of that day, that will happen. I promise you there's one scenario where it will happen, and that's when we get relegated. Let's get relegated and stay down for a season. Levy will be long gone. Trust me, guys.
The debts will start to pile up.
No, we
Listen,
make so
I
much
would
money with
take
you.
it. I would take it to get rid of this ownership. So yeah.
JORRI,
Yeah.
thank you so much.
Yeah, go cheer up your boys now,
Yeah.
Jory. Tell them to forget about Spurs
Yes.
until Thursday.
Till Thursday.
Yeah. All right, guys. I'll
Cheers.
try.
Thank
I'll
you.
try my best. Take care, guys.
All
Great
the
show,
best,
by the way.
Jory.